Hello Premium Hunters, it's Andrew again. Welcome back to another episode of my weekly portfolio performance update. This update is for week 15, April 7 through 11. It was a painful week. It was definitely a painful week, but before we get into that, I just wanted to welcome you if this is your first time. Again, my name is Andrew. I'm an options trader, and this channel is where I pull back the curtain to show you exactly what I do and how I do it. I post these videos each week, typically on Mondays. This one's going out a little bit late because I had a lot of organizing to do with all of my trades, but better late than never. But typically these do go out on Mondays. I put them out every week. And I also post videos with general knowledge about, just the different types of trades that I do, the strategies, and some basics on options trading. So if you're new to options, you'd like to learn more about it, I'd highly recommend that you check out my demystifying options video on this channel. That'll give you the basics and give you some general knowledge and understanding about some of the information that I cover in these videos. Just a quick disclaimer that I am not a financial advisor, and anything that I cover in these videos should not be constituted as financial advice. Make sure you consult a financial advisor before making any financial decisions. All right, so if you've been paying attention to what's going on in the market, you know it's been really rough out there. I don't know of any traders right now that are doing well. I'm not a trader that's been doing well over the last couple of weeks. Over the long haul, I'm still doing well. I'm still doing well over the long haul. But the reality is it's so easy to book those winners and to book those winning trades and to book profits. But once you start running into having to take losses and do the difficult things, then that's when it starts getting rough. So that's where the mental psychology comes in, and where you kind of have to basically pull yourself up and realize, look, we're in it for the long haul. Got to keep going. Yes, there's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days, but you got to take it all with a grain of salt and keep moving forward and be able to take a look at the big picture. So if you're asking, why am I doing this? Well, first of all, if you're new to options trading, I want to give you a resource where you can see that it is legitimate. You can see real results from a real trader. I know there's a lot of fake gurus out there, and I'm not one of them. And if you watch this video, you'll see that I'm totally transparent in all of my trades, because anybody who's trying to be a fake guru wouldn't be posting what I'm posting this week, because it was a very rough week. But my intent is to document all of my trades in real time to show you what I do and how I do it, and just show that you can make consistent income with options. And I'm going to prove that to you. And the second reason I'm doing this is to build a community of people who are interested in options trading. Anybody from newbies to traders that have been around for many years. I'd love to see you drop your comments in the comments section below, and let's get some dialogue going as to what's working, what's not working, how long have you been trading if you have been trading, or what is it that you want to learn if you haven't been trading, if you're brand new. So what to expect, I'm going to go over all of my trades for the previous week, and again, this was last week, week 15, the 15th week of the year. I talk about all of my strategies that I closed out, what the goal was for those strategies, what my profit or loss was for all of those strategies, and then I do a performance analysis. I also do a performance analysis for the entire week to show you how I did for that week, and then I compare that week to previous weeks to see how I'm tracking over the year and to see how this week's performance compared to previous weeks. And then I'll provide any insights that I gain from my analysis. All right, as you can see here, I hopped on over to my tracking platform. I use TraderSync to track all of my trades. And if you're not tracking your trades, then I highly recommend that you do so. I've been through so many platforms trying to find something that could easily conveniently allow me to track my trades and analyze my performance. I've gone through complicated spreadsheets that tracked way too much data, through simple spreadsheets that I didn't realize didn't track or didn't compute things the way I wanted them to or the way they were supposed to. And I've been through online platforms like this one. And I've finally arrived at TraderSync, which is a great platform. I'm going to make a video about how to use this platform just because I love it so much. I honestly don't think I would have been able to put together all of the information that I put together for this week's video if it wasn't for this platform. But if you are looking for a platform to track your trades, then I highly recommend this platform. I do have an affiliate link in the description below, so I would appreciate it if you'd use that link if you do decide to sign up. I'm not recommending it to make money. I'm recommending it because I think it's a great platform. It's something that I use for myself. I pay for the platform myself, so I think it's well worth it, and kind of have a hard time imagining what it would be like tracking my trades without this. Let's go ahead and look at my performance so far prior to this week's performance that I'm going to go over today. This is through week 14. It does not include week 15, so you can see my total profit is $68,826.77. You can see the graph over time. And let me go ahead and jump down to the weekly results. So here we see that we can see my performance week to week. We can see that every week has been a winner except for 3 weeks. Last week was my biggest loss so far, which I lost $4,865. My biggest winner was week 5, where I made $10,751. And so now what we're going to do is shift over to this week, week 15, to see how we did. And I'll tell you, it was brutal. It was brutal, but stick around and find out exactly how brutal. All right, so as I said, I am going to go through each one of my trades for the week. I'm not going to go through every single trade, but I will go through every strategy. And I'm going to start with the strategy that performed the best, and then work my way down to the strategy that performed the worst. And then I will show you how I did combined for the entire week, all strategies combined. And then we'll take a look at how that compared for the year overall, and see how we're doing overall. So the first one we have right here is the leap that I closed out. As you can see, I made $1,872 on this trade, which you might think that was great, but it was one of the more painful $1,800 I've ever made. And that's because this strategy was doing really well, and I was really excited about owning this position. Let me go ahead and jump into it here so we can take a look at the chart, and I can kind of describe what this position is all about. All right, so I've got the chart pulled up on the screen, and so this is the leap strategy. This is where we actually buy calls. I often say on my channel that we do not buy calls, we sell, or we do not buy options, we sell options. But this is one exception where we actually do buy options. And so the whole idea here is to control shares of a stock that you believe will go up for a much lower amount of capital. And so we buy calls, and that allows us to do that. So as you can see here, when Palantir was trading, I don't know, right about $60 per share, I bought 2 contracts, and instead of paying $60 per share, I only paid $27.60 per contract, and that allowed me to control 200 shares. And so all I do is I just wait and watch and hope that the stock goes up. And as you can see here, the stock did go up, it came back down, but then went up sharply here. When was this? In February, and I was sitting really pretty here. I probably had a profit. I think, if I remember correctly, I was sitting around close to $20,000 worth of profit right here on these leaps. But I was holding these for the long term. I felt like that Palantir could go up significantly over that time frame. But guess what? Trump got elected and Trump has his own plans, and he decided to put his tariff plans into place, which freaked out the markets, and that's what you see right here with the market selling off. And when the market sold off, it put me in a very difficult position, basically backed me into a corner because I had some margin calls. What happens when the market sells off like this is that volatility expands. And when volatility expands, the price of these options also expand, which you think would be great for me considering I own these options and I want the price to go up. But as you can see here, the price of the underlying came down. So at the end of the day, I closed this position because I needed to free up buying power, and this was one of my best options. What happens when you have a margin call is you have to analyze your account and see what is the least damaging trades that you can close out. And so here was an opportunity for me to close out these calls that I bought for $27.60. I closed them out for $36.96, and that gave me a profit of $1,869, which freed up some buying power and allowed me to stay in the game for a little bit longer. All right, so the next strategy, since we're talking about leaps, it actually works out pretty good that the next strategy is a poor man's covered call, because when you own a leap like this, it allows you to sell calls on those leaps, which allows you to generate some extra income on these leaps that you already own. So I'm going to go ahead and load those up. Let's see, that's the PMCC. And let's let that load. And so here we go. We see the poor man's covered calls that I traded last week. We had 2 in NVIDIA and 1 in Palantir for a total of $126 in profit. And I'll go ahead and load up the Palantir here so that you can see how this trade works. All right, so here is the stock chart. Here is the leap that I just told you about. This is now gone. I sold that, made $1,800 on it. But while I still owned it, I sold this call against it. And we can see here that I sold 2 contracts for 76 cents per contract. It was a 95 strike price. And then I bought them back here for 39 cents. So that just helped me generate $71 of extra income. All right, so now that we covered all of the winning trades and positions, it's time to get into the painful stuff here. The rest of them are going to be losers, but let's go ahead and cover that. It is what it is. It's reality, and we have to deal with reality when it comes to trading. If you want to deal in fantasy land, you might as well go to the casinos. But we're not dealing in fantasy land. We have to deal in reality. So the next one I want to cover are the covered calls. And so here you can see I lost $4,465 in the covered calls. And again, the reason why I took so much loss here is because I was up against margin calls. And when you have a margin call, you either need to deposit more cash into your account or you need to close out positions in order to free up margin. And so I closed out these positions because they were the least painful to me to close out at the time. Now, one of the positions here I want to point out that I think is notable is Baidu. The reason why I want to point that out is because it's a good example to illustrate how easy it is to analyze your trades using this platform. And this also helps me illustrate the next strategy that I'm going to cover anyway. So let's go ahead and take a look at Baidu. And one thing that I can do is if I just want to see Baidu's trades, if I've got a list of trades here and I just want to see one of the positions or one of the underlyings, all I have to do is click on that underlying and it filters all of the rest of them out. But now what I want to do is I want to see how much money did I make, because I have been trading covered calls in Baidu for quite some time. I want to see how much money I've made on these covered calls in total for the time frame that I've been trading them. So all I have to do to see that is to get rid of the current time frame that we're looking at. So I can do that just by clicking this X here. And now it's going to show me all of the covered calls in Baidu that I've ever traded right here. And it's also going to give me a total here, so I can see that I've made $1,161.79. Now I just happen to know that I was trading these covered calls because of a strangle position that went against me, and it forced me to buy Baidu stock. And so since I owned Baidu stock, I figured, well, let me go ahead and sell calls against it to drive down the cost basis. So because I know that was a strangle that I traded, I can just come up here, select my strangle tag for my setups, which is right here, and then it's going to pull up all of the strangles that I traded in Baidu. And as you can see here, I originally opened this strangle back on August 14th, and I rolled the position to make a little extra money, but I ended up closing it out here on August 16th. And now if we just want to focus on the strangle, I can deselect my covered calls, and that's going to show me just the Baidu strangle that I traded. And so you can see here that when I closed this out, I actually bought shares for $95 per share, sold them for $88 a share, and that's what caused me to lose the $1,400 here. When I closed out this position here, I actually made $1,500. So I was a little bit up on the position, at least on this side of the position. But on this side of the position, as you can see, I bought stock for $108 per share. And so these were the covered calls that I was selling on this stock that I bought for $108 per share. I was just trying to drive that purchase price of 108 down until the stock price came back up to where I could either break even or make a little bit of money on that. But as you can see here, for just this position, had I not sold any calls, I would have lost just over $5,000. But when we add back in the calls, the covered calls that I sold, remember I made about $1,600 on the covered calls. When we add those back in, my loss goes down to $3,853. So it's really cool how you can use TraderSync to so easily filter between these positions and these trades so that you can get a really good idea of how much money you're making or losing over the long haul on a particular strategy where there's a number of trades that all work together. When you're rolling trades, yeah, you're technically closing out one trade for a loss and opening another one, but your overall goal for the long term is to make a profit overall. And this allows you to see that information very easily. But let's go ahead and get back to the week 15 results. So I'll click on week 15 here, click on that tag to filter those out. And then we'll get rid of the Baidu tag. We'll get rid of the covered call tag, and this is the strangle that finally got closed out in week 15, where I sold the remaining shares, and I lost $5,100 on those shares. But as you saw with all the covered calls that I sold, it was a loss of $3,800. All right, so the next strategy that we're going to cover, this one is my bread and butter, the one that I've been trading most frequently in these videos. And if you do want more information about that strategy, check out the How to Print Money Using the Wheel of Fortune strategy. That is linked in the description below. But let me go ahead and pull up that strategy. Now, this week's results may not incentivize you to go watch that video, but trust me, this is just 1 week. Like I said, we have to look at the big picture, and I can actually show you the big picture at the end of this video to see how much money you can make in the wheel trade over time. Just remember, this is just 1 week, and there's more to my results than just this week. So anyway, as you can see here, I took a loss of $11,162 on the weekly wheel for this week. Now, what made me take so much of a loss on the weekly wheel? Well, the reality is it comes back to those margin calls, and that's why it's so important to manage your buying power and manage your margin. But with what was happening, the crazy stuff that was happening in the markets, I did get pushed into a margin call position, and I had to start selling some shares. And so Palantir was one of the stocks that I selected that I identified as giving me the least amount of pain. You can see here that I sold my level 2 stock that I purchased for $94 a share. I sold that for $80.51 per share, which gave me a loss of just over $4,000. I sold 300 of those shares, and then I sold some of these calls, which was my level 1 stock that I bought. I bought that level 1 stock back on February 20th for $123 per share, and I had to sell that for $81.51. Now again, I want to show you how flexible this platform is. If we want to see, now this looks like a big loss, but what if we added in all of the premium that I collected in addition to this loss to see overall how much I lost? Let's go ahead and do that, and I'll show you how I can do that here real quick. So we know this was level 2 stock, which means that we want to add in the level 2 puts and the level 2 calls. And then in addition to that, we want to see the level 2 stock. But we want to see this just for Palantir, so we select Palantir here. Now I can come back here and see that I started selling my level 2 puts right around February 27th. So I'm going to come up to the date filter here. All right, so we'll start with February 27th, and we'll go forward through April 11th and apply those dates. And now we can see all of the level 2 puts and calls and stock that we bought and sold to see that we did not do so well. We did not fare so well. Those margin calls really hurt us because we ended up taking a loss of $4,838.17. So if I want to see how I did on the level 1, all I would have to do is change these tags. So I went in and changed all the tags to reflect level 1 calls, level 1 stock, and level 1 puts. And you can see here that I ended up losing $4,264 on that. So yeah, those margin calls really hurt me. But this is, I think, just really cool to be able to just select the tags that you need to see the trades that you want to see so that you can analyze your strategies. And I will tell you that it took me a long time to go through and make sure that everything was set up properly so that I could analyze these trades. But I don't know that I could have done it at all if it wasn't for this platform. It would be a lot of going back and forth and tracking on a spreadsheet to really clearly get a good picture of how a trade ended up working out over the long run. So being able to have this platform and do it so easily like this is very beneficial and very helpful. So anyway, let's go ahead and close these out. So we want to get back to analyzing just week 15. We don't need this date filter. We don't need to look at just Palantir. We want to see the weekly wheel again because remember we lost $11,162 basically on that. And as we can see, I can filter by each underlying to see how much I lost or made in each one. As you can see in Palantir, I lost just over $12,000. In Amazon, I made just over $837, and in Google, I made just over $170. All right, so are you ready to see the total damage for the week? Yep, here we go. Now, all I have to do to see all of the trades for the week, I've got my tag selected for 2515, which is week 15 of 2025. I can just deselect this weekly wheel strategy by clicking the X here, and then it will show me just the trades for week 15. And we see we have a loss of $18,743 if you want to round up. So yeah, it was definitely a very painful week. I took my losses. It kind of feels good because it did create quite a bit of stress to have all of those margin calls. So to be able to make those decisions and say, yep, got to cut the cord, take the loss, and just to get it behind me feels actually kind of like a relief. The good news is that I am still up for the year. So if you want to go ahead and take a look at how I'm doing for the year, I'll go ahead and do that now. Just to show you how I do that, all I have to do is come into my custom tags, go under week closed. I can select all of them, deselect 2024 because I don't want to see that, and deselect merged trades. And then deselect week 16 because that's this current week, but not last week, which is what we're analyzing currently. And then that shows me how I'm doing total for the year so far. And as you can see, I still have a profit. I'm still up by 50 grand. And I'm not sure how many traders can say that right now after the last couple of weeks. So even though I did take a few big hits over the last few weeks, I am still up for the year, which I think is actually pretty fantastic. So I said I was going to show you how I've done for the weekly wheel so far for the year, and I can do that just by coming up here, clicking the weekly wheel tag, and it will give me my total for the year, and it's just under $12,000 so far for the year. So yeah, even though I took a big hit on this strategy this week, I'm still up by $12,000. But again, we have a total profit of $50,080, basically $84. And that does bring my weekly average down quite a bit. So my new weekly average is now $3,308.93. So yeah, that has come down quite a bit. But again, I mean, I'm profitable. Even with all the carnage that we had in the markets last week, I'm still showing a profit. So I'm very happy about that. And here's the other thing. We're not done. We're not done. We're going to keep trading and we're going to keep moving forward and we're going to continue generating profits. I am a little bit nervous about Trump being in office and doing some of the radical, crazy things that he does with the rash decisions and not explaining the logic behind his decisions. I don't think there is any logic myself, but you know, that's the whole reason why the markets are doing what they're doing. Investors don't like uncertainty, and Trump is creating a lot of uncertainty. If he's going to take some drastic measures that are going to have a huge impact on the market, then at least prepare us for that. At least explain it to us. At least give us some rationale behind it so there's not quite as much uncertainty. But when there's no logic, no rationale, no explanation, it creates a lot of uncertainty, and that's why we're dealing with what we're dealing with, and that's why I'm a little bit nervous about moving forward. Now, I will say that the markets have settled out quite a bit. My account does have some buying power in it. It's still not enough. It's not the minimum amount of buying power that I like to have. So I can't do anything right now. All I can do is I can do these trades, which is basically selling these calls that I have on my weekly wheel positions that I have open, and I can generate income that way. But I need the value of those stocks to come back up so that I can get out of those positions or even make more money on the calls that I'm selling on those positions so that I can get back to where I was back at the beginning of the year where I was booking nice fat profits. Right now, my profits are going to be much thinner than what they have been. But at the end of the day, hey, if I'm booking profits, those are profits. And, you know, I'm not trying to retire right now. You know, I would love to retire off of this, you know, in the not too distant future. But because of what Trump has done and because of how that's affected the market, that kind of shows that you have to be very careful about this type of trading. So now let's go ahead and take a look at my weekly results. We'll go ahead and go into the reports section. We can see the graph here, and it's looking a little unhealthy at the end there. These are the losses that we've taken over the last few weeks, and you can see the graph has lost some ground here, but that's okay. You can see that it's still above water. It's quite a bit above water, so that's a good thing. And let's go ahead and take a look at the weekly results. Whew. Yeah, that's a big red bar we have there. Up until this week, my biggest loss was $4,800, just over $4,800. I exceeded that by quite a bit this last week. I'm now showing the biggest loss of $18,742. That loss is bigger than my biggest profit for the year so far. So yeah, it was definitely painful, but I think we're through the worst of it right now. I think like I said, I think things have settled out a little bit, and so I think we're going to be able to get out of this red zone and at least have some green zone for a little while. And if things continue to improve, we might be able to boost our profits a bit. But right now we have a lot of uncertainties, so we have to tread lightly, we have to be careful, we have to take profits, we have to take smaller profits. We have to take the profits when we can get them, and that means we take smaller profits. So it's just the state of the market. We take what we can get, and we don't get too greedy, because that's when we can get slaughtered. All right, well, I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by again and joining me on my journey, my options trading journey, on what is hopefully my most painful week for the year. It was a rough one, but again, full disclosure, total transparency. I want you to see how I'm trading. I'm still up for the year. I'm still doing good overall. We had a very rough couple of weeks, the last couple of weeks, and we had to take a beating. But this is the nature of the game. This is just options trading, and you have to go into it with your eyes open. So anyway, thanks again for stopping by. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and click the bell notification so you can be notified when I drop my next video. But for now, take care, and I look forward to bringing you more better options in the future. Bye-bye.